Hello, my name is Ai Lin, and I'm from Tunggal University, Management and Technology.
Nice to meet you.
I just done one of my projects called Goldfish.
Oh, yes. So my name is Darrel Gomes. I'm a film practitioner and also a theatre practitioner, and at the same time, I'm an educator.
Can I know how you start? What inspired you to become a scriptwriter and director?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think this is not something that I'm ever able to run away from, because even very early on, I think according to my family, I've shown a lot of tendencies of creativity and all that. But eventually, as I grew older, because when I was younger, I just wanted to be an actor, right? But I realized that my real pain is actually to be able to tell a story. You know what I mean by that was that I think Maya Angelou said this: there is no bigger pain than holding in an untold story. And I realized I have a lot of stories that hurts me, in a sense that I need to let it out. And I think that whether it's film or theatre, it's just an outlet for me to be able to put that across to an audience. Yeah.
So, because you just now said that you have a lot of story, you have to you need to tell the public. So, do you think that a good scriptwriter, is normally based on their own experience to tell a story, or they just based on their own creativity?
Okay, I think creativity comes from experience.
Okay.
There is this writer by the name of Henry David Thoreau who said this, how vain is it for you to sit down and write when you have not stood up to live? That means you have to live life first in order for you to have experience to write. And then I remember Yasmin Ahmad, the Malaysian film director, she said this, there's no such thing as a creative person. There are only sensitive observers with sharp observers with very sensitive hearts. So to me, I think you cannot create from a place of nothingness. You create either by encountering something, you went through an experience, you see something at the side of the road, and it's the life around you that is fueling your creative experiences. So to me, it always starts with observation. By looking out is when you are able to internalize the story and then you put it on paper. Yeah, so that's just the process for me lah.
Okay, so because some of the filmmakers believe that a good storytelling is based on a sudden creative inspirations, but they cannot be taught as a skills. So they also believe that Save the Cat and also Hero's Journey are not useful. So what do you think about that? Do you agree with that?
Okay, I will start by saying that I think there are no rules in the arts, but there are guidelines as to what might or might not work, So you don't approach it like a hard rule, but rather, okay, this is what I'm trying to create, so there are certain guidelines as to how to approach it. My strongest belief is this: you have to learn the rules first for you to break the rules. Like for example, if I want to know what is new, I have to find out what is old first. Yes. Right, so I learned everything by track structures with the cat and all that, and so that I am so familiar with this that if I were to switch it around, I will know how it will be different from what is normally done. Right, so it really depends at the end of the day what you are trying to create. If I'm creating something for a company, for example, usually commercials and company and all that, they want something that caters to the general audience, and general audiences are most familiar with Hollywood. Hollywood uses a track structure. Right? So if I'm going to make a commercial film, I straight away use the Hollywood track structure, and maybe I switch it a little bit around. But if I'm going to make an avant-garde piece of work, then I will know exactly what not to do, because I know what commonly is done with the track structure and the Hollywood way of making films. Yeah, so I would say whether it's fixed or not, it depends on what you're trying to create.
Okay, so for you, what do you think about what is a good important element in order to write a good story?
To me, one thing that I will never sacrifice on is character. Character. To me, I feel, okay, imagine if you know a person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, for example, this is the story of your mom on screen. So when you see your mom on screen, right, you naturally will care for her. You will be able to sit down for 3 or 4 hours and follow her in the film because you care for her and that you love her, right? Yeah, so to me, character, right, is the first thing that will capture you, because you are seeing a life of another human being on screen. So you, in a way, have to relate or understand the human being to want to go on a journey with them. So imagine if you're watching a stranger, but the stranger is so relatable, you will sit down and see, you will watch the film. But if the character is unrelatable, or the character is someone who maybe is very evil and you don't like the character, right? Then you might not be able to follow them for 3 hours because you're not interested in them. You get annoyed and stuff like that. So to me, this is empathy lah, right? We are trying to make the character as relatable and as compassionate as possible, so that when you watch it, you see yourself in them. So to me, by anything, no matter it's sci-fi or it's just a simple story, I will never sacrifice character.
So why some characters like Joker inside The Dark Knight? Why the audience still can put their empathy in the character?
Okay, how we write stories in the classical way and the postmodern way is very different. Okay, in the old classical way of writing stories, it's good versus evil, right? But postmodern days is good versus good, right? So if you're looking at it, right, the word antagonist doesn't mean that the person is evil. It simply means a person who's standing in the way of the hero to get what the hero wants, you know. So there's also this argument of moral relativity and moral absolutism. Okay, moral absolutism means a character is only good. That means there's nothing bad in them, right? Only good. But moral relativity believes that the character is both good and also they have some evil in them. So to me, I feel that when you talk about characters that are a bit more grey, that there's evil and goodness in them, right? They become more real, more human, right? They rehumanize the character, right? So to me, if you look at all these characters, right, they are very morally complex, because even though you might disagree with what they do, you somehow understand. Like, not Parasite, I disagree with what happened when how they did what they did, they cheated and all that.
Yes.
But you still like them because they are very close to one another. They have good family values, and you somehow understand that they're trying to climb the social hierarchy because they are very poor. So you might not agree, but you can understand. So even if you look at the characters like the Joker and all that, they tap into this moral absolutism and moral relativity argument lah. So that means they are not just bad or just good. They are a little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Okay, so last questions. So do you have any advice or words for the young filmmakers in order to distinguish them in the future?
I would say two things. Number one, start with what you have. You meet a lot of young filmmakers and all that who will say that, oh, I want proper lighting, proper camera, all that, then I will start shooting my film, right? But in reality, if you look at it, right, equipment is important depending on what you're trying to create, right? But if you're a young filmmaker, right, you will tell most likely personal stories and all that, right? So for that, you can even shoot with a camera phone or whatever it is. So use what you have. Use what you have. That's the first thing. That's number one. And number two, what I said just now, learn the rules to break the rules. Yes. Learn until you have mastered the basic way of making films, and then you learn how to break the rule, and that's when you will find your voice as a director, right? Because I think what is also very important is when you watch a film and you will be able to feel that, okay, this is the director's voice. Like with just one shot of a Stephen Chow film, you will know it's Stephen Chow. Yeah. One shot of a Wong Kar-wai film, you will know it's a Wong Kar-wai thing. So who we are as a person usually comes after we learn the basics, and then you figure out how you can break the rules in a way that only you can break it. So that's how you will find your voice. So these are the two things that I would tell young filmmakers.
Okay, understand. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay,